You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad who has been living in my 1997 Ford van for more than a year. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hey, everybody. This is Holly Priestley, the host of the Deliberate Living podcast, and welcome to a new episode. I am here today with my good friend, Tom Pence.
Hello.
Some people might just call him Tom. I don't. We have known each other for more than 15 years.
Yeah, I think last time we did the math, it was like 17.
Yeah,
so it might be
probably
18
now.
Yeah.
So we've known each other for a while. We met when I was in middle school and he was in high school. And since then, we've both just lived life our own unique ways and kept in touch. And I really cherish my relationship with Tom. I don't have a whole ton of people in my life that I've known for that long who aren't, immediate family members.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom's story is really interesting, and I wanted to share it with you guys today to give you another taste of how you can live a deliberately alternative lifestyle. Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you came from?
And we're coming at you from Cochise, Arizona.
From Cochise, Arizona. Thank you. Cochise is just southeast of Tucson, and I have been here now for 3 or 4 days, and it's beautiful. So if you ever get the chance, definitely come on down. There's a lot of camping, climbing, hiking. It's just beautiful. Gorgeous down here.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I've been living a seasonal lifestyle for the last 8 going on 9 years now. Been at it for a while, and I live and work in Antarctica, Alaska, and Greenland. Those rotate in certain ways, and I'll get into that in a bit. But
it's about as far from each other as you can get.
Yeah, and I'm from Arizona too, so it doesn't make any sense why this desert rat is all up in these cold places. It's silly, but I love it. I love each place. They all have their individual charm. But I started off just working at a restaurant in Denver, really like not going anywhere, and some friends of mine one day caught wind of going to Antarctica, and I had no idea that it was a place that you could even like step foot on. And I was supposed to go with them that year, and I ended up getting cold feet and backed out. I just things weren't lining up correctly, and the paperwork process is very daunting. And so my first go around, I decided not to do it and just to kind of let them figure it out and let me know, let them be the little guinea pigs. And they came back after 5.5 to 6 months, and they said they loved it, and they said that I would love it too. So next year, I took up the paperwork again and had some good guidance and made it out there. And it was wild. It's such a crazy place to live and work. So that was back in 2012, August of 2012 was when I first started going down. And it was just such a wild thing because I had never done anything like that. I had always worked very stationary jobs. I worked in a hospital for a long time, doing admissions and registration, and I was super unhappy seeing sick people every day. It was just getting old real quick, and so I just ducked out of there and decided to go work in a restaurant. And then after that, I went to Antarctica, and so it was great down there. I ended up, for my first season, I did 6.5 months, I think it shook out to be, which is a little longer than typical. And it was wild. The community down there is about, I want to say, 850 on average, 850 people. It's a science facility, and so we have a section of scientists and then just people who support them. And so when I first went down there, I was a dishwasher and a janitor, just doing whatever job would get me there. And these days I'm a cargo person, so I go down there and I work with the U.S. Air Force, and they bring cargo down, whether it's science-y stuff or just food or people or luggage or whatever. I work with them with getting all that stuff into town, dispersing it where it needs to go, and then pretty much just do the reverse of that with outbound stuff.
So every year you did a different job.
So my first year I was they're called stewards. And so I was a janitor / DA, a dining attendant. And then, the year after that, I was a supervisor for the janitorial staff. And I did that for 2 or 3 years. And then after that was when I jumped in on, the cargo gig, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's been way better. And yeah, it's I don't know what else we got. What else do we need to talk about? I got a space there.
How did you go from Antarctica to Greenland and Alaska?
Oh yeah. So I got lucky. My first year in Antarctica, my buddy Kevin just approached me one day in the hallways and was like, "Hey, what are you doing this summer?" And I told him that I didn't really have any prospects. I was going to try to get something figured out. I was actually thinking about going back to that restaurant just for like 6 months. And
the restaurant in Denver.
The restaurant in Denver, which was like probably not going to happen because I didn't want it, and they probably didn't want me just to work for 6 months and then take off again. But and so he hooked it up with a job in Alaska. He said that they are always looking for seasonal lifestyle people, and with the season in Antarctica phasing into the season in Alaska, you have like a month or 2 of travel going from Antarctica to Alaska. And then when you're going from Alaska to Antarctica, you have like a month of travel. So you get like 3 months off on either end of each job. And so it's like perfect.
Yeah.
And up there, I worked at a travel lodge in tourism, driving and guiding. And I ended up doing that job for like 6 years. And at the end there, I was doing some like supervisory things. And then last year, I decided to do something different, and I went up to Greenland. And the Greenland job is pretty much the exact same job as the Antarctica job. The station, it's another science facility at Summit Station, and the community is about 30 people, give or take. Whoa. 5 or 10.
Whoa,
so
that's
real
so
tiny,
small.
real tiny. 30 people for so. Historically, it's been from like end of April to the end of August. But with my job, with the cargo person job, being that I'm the only cargo person out there, they decided to cut it up. And so they have 2 cargo handlers, and they split the beginning of the season and the end of the season. So last year I went into the beginning of the season, April to June. And then my buddy Adam came in and finished up from June to August. And
then you're in Antarctica September to March, or how does that work?
Beginning of October until like mid to late February.
Okay.
Yeah. And so with the Greenland job having that shorter season, I got to have a summer like where I didn't work for the first time in a long time, which was super fun. And so yeah, got out and did a little hiking. Holly came on to start the Colorado Trail with me. The first 5 miles, her and her dog Lisa. That was super fun. And so, yeah, Greenland is it's like exactly the same as Antarctica. It's like same planes, exact same planes from New York, the LC-130s that come through. And I think we have a few C-17s that go through Kangerlussuaq in Greenland. And then we're in Summit. And so Kanger is on like the edge of the continent, and I guess not the continent, the country. And then Summit Station is like in the middle, a little south. And so while we're there, it's just like flat white as far as the eye can see in every direction. In Greenland, the temperatures are typically, like 20 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take. And the winds can pick up pretty good. We get drifting snow like crazy. Like we have a building that's out there that is there permanently. It's movable, but it's out there all year long. And during the wintertime, it just like fills up with snow around it. It drifts so much. And then the summertime, we just spend the entire summer like digging it out, and then it drifts in again every year. It's pretty wild.
It's pretty crazy to have grown up in a really hot place like Arizona and New Mexico, and then now pretty much dedicate your life to being in really freaking cool places.
Yeah, it took some adjusting. and it's like I'm still a bit of a baby when I first get to either location or any of the locations. Because it's still real cold, and whenever I come back to Arizona, it's real hot, and so that can be real tricky. So I'm just kind of like a baby everywhere I go, but I toughen up after like a week or two. So we get it all figured out.
Reacclimate to that temperature.
Exactly. I'm sure that my body just has no idea what's going on anytime.
Probably does not. No. Yeah. And then when you're doing your work in any of those places, they're so close to the poles that even like days are different. Like you have so much sunlight, and I mean, so your body is just friggin' confused.
It's very confused. Yeah. So, like Holly was saying, there's a lot of sunlight in either location. Even in Alaska, we're far enough north to where, like when we get there in like late April, depending on if I'm working in Greenland or in Alaska, let's say Alaska this time. And when I get there late April, it's dark like normal times, like half of the day or so. But by the time June 1st, or I guess solstice, is the first day where we get 24 hours of daylight. And it's like the sun will go down and it'll like get to dusky, like kind of like a dusk feature, and then it'll just come right back up.
So it never gets dark.
Never gets all the way dark. Sleeping's tricky in Alaska, and we live in canvas tents too, so you got to like bring an eye mask or just like deal with it. Whereas in Antarctica and in Greenland, it's just 24 hours of daylight the whole time we're there.
Yeah.
And like from the moment you get there till the moment you leave, every single day is just daylight all day. Like 2 p.m. is just like rotating around the horizon.
That's crazy.
And so there we have some more like permanent structures in both locations, so you just black out your windows. So that that can be a little tricky to navigate at first, especially like if you go out with your friends and you have like a little bit of a party night, and you exit whatever building you're in and just you have blinding daylight, it just hits you in the face. It's pretty wild. You're like, wait, what time is it? Am I late for work?
That sounds really crazy. And
it's bonkers.
Like it's a lot to get used to.
Yeah.
And then coming back here for a couple of months, like
nighttime's real cool.
Everything's different. Yeah, nighttime is really cool. Yeah. Great stars.
Just last night out here, super good stars. It was it was breathtaking.
Yeah.
I've been in the city for the last few weeks, so I hadn't seen really good stars. And last night was a treat for many reasons.
I definitely recommend all you guys get out a little bit more, get away from the cities or whatever small town you live in, just get out into nature and lose some of that light pollution, check out the stars, breathe deeper.
Even during these days, during COVID-19, like social distance, but you can still go out and camp, go out by yourself.
Yeah, just not in groups of 10.
Yeah, you keep that number limited.
Depending on what country you're in and all of that.
Yeah, that's definitely depending on what you got going on personally.
Follow your local laws, of course.
Take it seriously, too. Flatten the curve.
So you mentioned at the beginning that when you first considered going to Antarctica, that first year you false started. What do you think most held you back at that time? Like, were you afraid of something? Were you just unsure? What happened there?
It was definitely the leap that was scaring me the most. It was just a lot to do, just a lot to change. Because I had in the past I'd quit a job and moved. I actually did that when I went to Denver. I just quit a job and took everything that I had up to Denver with me. And so that part was familiar, but going to live somewhere with an end date kind of made me panic a little bit of what do I do when that time is up? What do I come back to?
You were panicking about the next thing. It wasn't even going to Antarctica that was scary. It was coming back from Antarctica that was scary.
I mean, going to Antarctica was pretty scary. It was all pretty freaky, but it definitely I definitely focused on the post stuff a lot. Going to Antarctica really freaked me out a fair bit. But I knew that it was something that I could handle. I could do. You can do anything for 6 months, it's fine. You can just hunker down, even if you don't like it. 6 months will go by. You can focus in on yourself. You can change your lifestyle to suit it to where you can get by. And I'm fortunate to say Antarctica is not for everybody. And so some people have gone down there and they were completely disillusioned by the job that they're going to have. And so they were given like, I guess they maybe gave themselves or were given like false hopes. And so when they went down there, they did something that they hated. And so, but they stuck with it and just focused in on themselves, you know, like took the social aspect out of it if that's what they needed, and made it work. There's flexibility in that realm. And, but yeah, like, I knew that I could do it no matter what. Like it didn't really like sink in until I was on the like government plane, you know, heading down. Like it looked like we were gonna like paratroop into Antarctica, you know, like it's just like the inside was just bare. Like you could see all the hoses, all the wires, everything, and we're just in these jump seats lining the side of the aircraft, you know, like these bungee seats that were
like
very
the stuff
uncomfortable.
You see in a movie or something. Like
it's exactly.
That's not how, like when I ride airplanes,
yeah,
not what it looks like.
Yeah, you're facing forward, and it's comfortable to a degree.
And you're like too close to your neighbors.
Always. Yeah. But this was wild. It was pretty weird, and they being with the harsh conditions that are down there, they issue you extreme cold weather gear, or ECW for short, and which involves just like a huge parka. It's enormous, and it's you have to wear it when you're going down. You have to have like your parka on, and then they give you either wind pants or like Carhartt insulated bibs, and these huge boots that are rated for very cold weather. Sometimes they're bunny boots, sometimes they're FTX boots, whatever. But they make walking very difficult either way. But you have to wear like at least those 3 items of clothing when you're on this plane, going either to or from Antarctica. And so you're just like way bigger than you used to be. And so like being on these like jump seats next to all these people, you know, it's just...
you're all huge.
And you're all huge, and it's super loud, so you can't really talk to anybody. And so that was when it like really hit home that like I was going to go to a foreign planet at this point.
Yeah.
And my entire life was changing. And like I definitely had like a lot of butterflies in my stomach, but I do not regret the choice that I made. Going to Antarctica was one of the coolest things that I ever started to do. Nowadays, I'm kind of looking to phase out of the seasonal lifestyle. I've been doing it for almost 9 years now, so I had the intention of making moves. Things are getting in the way of that, and so I have at least 1 more year in Antarctica going on, and then after that we'll see what happens. Just kind of looking to set some roots. I bought a dresser, which is the first piece of furniture I've owned in a very long time.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of it. He was very proud.
Oh, so proud. It's my baby.
So when you first got down there, you are wearing so much clothes, and you just got off this military airplane, and you've changed your life. What was that immediate, like, the first couple of days, the first week, like for you?
Oh, gosh. It was wild. You know, like a lot of it can give you the same feeling as if like you just moved out of state to go to college, or you're like at least out of town to go to college, and you're just like by yourself. You don't know anybody, and you're getting to know the college, the facilities, and so it kind of felt like that in a way. But then it also it just like. I don't think I'll ever forget the moment that I stepped off the plane, because, you know, like we landed, and they have to do some things before they let people out. So we also kind of like stood up, and we were just, you know, lining the edges of this plane, waiting for something to happen. And they opened up the door, and there is some temperature controlling inside this plane, despite its look. And so when they opened up the door, we just got hit by a gust of cold air, and it was wild. And then stepping off the plane is also super cumbersome, because you have like your big carry-on with you, and you're just like enormous, and they shove you through this like pretty small door, and you step out, and it's just like I just assumed that it would be flat and white everywhere that you looked, but there's actually mountains in McMurdo. There's Observation Hill, which is a local hike that you can do, and then right on the other side of station is Mount Erebus, which is the southernmost active volcano. And so there was just like an active volcano just like spewing some just some smoke, you know, just like a little bit of smoke coming out of the top of it. And so the landscape had texture, And the other thing that was crazy was that there was just the right amount of winds where it was catching up just like little bits of snow and like dragging it across the ice like in between our feet. And so it was it was magical. It was like Pocahontas, like painting with all the colors of the wind, but just like these stripes of just like white going through your legs was pretty magical. And getting to know the facility is pretty was fun. It was a really fun adventure because it was built in the 70s, and so it just like everything is old and antiquated, and it's a lot of it is silly. And you look at it, you're like, why is this like this? Because it's super hard to get stuff down there. That's why. And so they kind of like keep whatever they have for as long as possible. And so the facility, like at first sight, is like pretty clean. At least when I got there, it's called Windfly. So let me backtrack a little bit. So my first season, I went in at a time called Windfly, which was in late August. It's a like an early flight to like get supplies in before what's called main body hits. And so during the winter, then they had 115 people just to hold over for winter, and then Windfly would happen in August, and that would bump them up to 150 people. And then after that, we have main body where they're just pushing flights and getting people down there, and so that will jump us up to 700 or so people, 850 eventually, and then we'll go from there. But so I came in at Windfly, and when you come in at Windfly, there's still darkness. It's still like half of the time is dark, half of the time is light, but and everything is covered in snow and ice. We're on a island, Ross Island, and so when main body gets there in October, all of that is gone. It's all like it's 24 hours of daylight, and it is all melted down to volcanic rock and dust. And so it's a dirty station when main body hits. But during Windfly, when I got there, it was very clean. And, like that was kind of my first impression. I was like, wow, why is it like so clean out here? And then that was completely shattered days later, or I guess a few weeks later when things started to melt down and the dirt started coming out, and it got so dirty, and it was just such a dirty station. But it can't be helped, like you can only, they mop and sweep those floors every single day, and it still just turns into just like a big shit show.
Yeah, with that many people in a small space, I imagine. I mean, it's one person in this small space of my van, and it's just me and the dog, and I still have to sweep every day, sometimes multiple times a day, just depending. So, I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I empathize.
Yeah, totally.
Were your family and friends supportive of your move down there? Or did they think you were crazy?
So they definitely thought I was crazy. I've definitely had like a little more adventure in my heart than anyone else in my family. And so they kind of were like, all right, get out of your system, go do your thing. And then 8 years later, my mom is like, all right, are you done yet? She thought it was cute the first time. And then she has just been, every single year, she's like, all right, was that the last one? Okay, you're going back? Okay. Yeah. And my dad was pumped for me. I found out after my first season that he was actually trying to make his way down there as an engineer, and
cool.
And he ended up getting a job elsewhere that paid him enough, so he never made it down, but he was pumped that I was taking this adventure. He was definitely like the traveler in his family growing up, and so he was pumped to see that I was the one who gained that from him, and they accept it now. They just know that like they can't tell me what to do, so I just do my own thing. And
so you might as well be supportive.
Yeah, exactly.
What else are you gonna do?
Yeah. Every time I come home, they're like, "All right, what's your itinerary like?
How long do we have you for?"
Yeah. And it's normally like, "All right, I'm gonna be here for a week, and then I'm out, and I'll see you next year."
So what keeps you going back then? Year after year.
So we had actually talked about this.
Yeah.
So I
think it's so interesting.
There's a fun little adage for Antarcticans where like the first time you go down is for the adventure, and definitely was for me. Yep. The second time you go down is for the people. Same. The third time you go down is for the money. Yes. And then the fourth time and on that you go down, you go because you don't fit in anywhere else anymore. And it's just like at that point it's so easy. Like I'd mentioned how hard the paperwork is, but like after you're like the first time it's real hard. Second time, just as hard. Third and fourth time it gets much easier, and then after that you're just like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And so it's just like streamlined at that point, and it's gotten better over the years. And the it's just like the idea of being part of a job like a 9 to 5 is kind of like the main deterrent for like most of the people I talk to. Is just like, I hate the idea of working somewhere forever for the foreseeable future. Yep. And so so it's real easy to become like a career seasonal worker,
regardless of which seasonal opportunity you're going for. If you go down to Antarctica, that's just one way to do seasonal work.
Absolutely.
But yeah, absolutely. I've spoken to some other seasonal career people, and it does become like far more than a job.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lifestyle.
Yeah, there's a lot out there in the ways of seasonal work. Like here in Arizona, like a lot of people will go and work at the Grand Canyon just for the summer. You know, like ski hills are always looking for people in the wintertime. Yeah. And campgrounds and things like that just need people for the summer.
Yeah, you could be a campground host.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. And I don't know if there was this couple that I know who were trying to get this website going that is strictly for like seasonal work. Like it's just like a one website to just like show you where you could go work seasonally.
There's a couple of websites like that, and I've referenced them on my website, and I'll put the link in the show notes here as well. And we can definitely add that one to the list if it's not already on there.
Totally, that'd be awesome. I don't know if they ended up getting it going. It was last time I talked to them. They said that it was a great idea that they were hoping to do. So
gotcha.
So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, and then like monetarily, like it is easy to go to Antarctica because like we call it being ice rich. And so you go to Antarctica, you make, you know, like however much money depending on your job. And the thing about it is that like while you're in Antarctica, you have like virtually nowhere to spend your money. They house you when you're there. In Antarctica specifically, you have at minimum one roommate. You live in a dorm, and then there's either like a shared bathroom down the hall, or there is you have suite mates, and so 4 people will share one bathroom, depending on like what your situation is. And so like housing covered, and then food as well, completely covered, unless you want to bring your own stuff. Some people will bring their own food to supplement because it is just a cafeteria. The food there, it ain't great. They try to have like at minimum one vegetarian option with protein, and then a vegan option, and then that's it. You know, like everything else is just like it's just chicken and pasta and stuff that's just like out of bags into fryers.
I mean, getting materials down there, getting food from anywhere else in the world to the bottom of the world. It's got to be a challenge.
Yeah, and getting it in that quantity too to feed 850 plus people every single day is going to be tough. You know, like it's easy to complain about the food while you're down there, but like they're doing the best they can with what they got, and
the logistics
suck. Yeah, and getting fresh fruits and vegetables are the hardest to get down there because like they can only, you know, like we put them on these pallets that you can fit. Like the van that we are currently on, you could probably fit on 1 or 2 pallets. And so they're huge pallets. And we, in New Zealand, they'll stack them up with an order of food that'll weigh, you know, like 3,000 pounds, roughly. And that's just nothing but food. And they'll have it ready for a flight. But if the weather gets bad in McMurdo, that food could be hanging out on that pallet unrefrigerated because they don't have a refrigerator that big to house it. For multiple days. And so they'll do what they can, and they'll like, you know, move it outside at night and then move it like into a shelter during the day to try to keep it from rotting. But like after 4 or 5 days, there's nothing they can do. Their hands are tied. Like they're either going to send us rotten food or they're going to tear it apart and throw it away. And so the logistics of getting fresh fruit and vegetable is extremely difficult, which sucks because it's all that we want all season long.
So being ice rich,
yeah. So you go down there, your fed, you're housed, and then like you only have a few places where you can spend money. One of which would be any of the 3 bars that we have down there. And
I'm surprised there are 3.
There are 3.
That's
it's amazing. Well, yeah, there's Gallagher's, which is kind of like more the party scene, and then there's Southern, which is kind of like the more like talk to your friend scene. Sometimes they decide to like, it all depends on who's where, but and then there's the Coffee House, which is like hang out and play a board game with your friends and drink wine. And
that sounds great.
It's a fantastic spot. I think they tore it down this year. But and so like all of the alcohol that's there is like, it's cheap. It's like $3 per beer, like, and it doesn't matter what kind of beer it is. It's $3 per beer across the board. Any shot of liquor that you want, $4 all the way across the board. Doesn't matter what it is.
So you're making money all season long. You're not paying rent. You're not paying for groceries. You might pay for beer, but it's like less than half what you'd pay in the States.
Exactly. And so you're just saving money, like some people have like houses that they're paying on, different bills that they're paying on back home. But like for the most part, like everyone's leaving that stuff behind, and they're just like, all this money is just going into your bank account. Yeah. And it's taxed just via whatever state that you're coming from, whatever airport of departure you have. And so you're just banking all this money. So by the end of the season, everyone just has this like stronghold of cash in their bank account, and then we're just like released into New Zealand all at once. Yeah, go stimulate the economy. And so we roll out of their ice rich, which is great. And there's also they have a bonus as well, a completion bonus. It's kind of the incentive to finish out your entire season and not quit. And so they take I think your first season, 16% of the amount of money that you're going to make overall that season. They give it to you at the end, assuming that you don't mess anything up. You're not an asshole. You don't get fired, sure. Or you quit. And so you just have this good batch of money that will either hold. Some people just like hold on to it until they come back to Antarctica, and which is great. Like you do have to live a little cheaply that way, but. A lot of people just get a job, like say in Alaska. Like we have a lot of turnover that come from Antarctica and then go to Alaska working for that tourism spot. It's a great. It's great in so many different ways. Just because like I can tell, like my boss in Alaska will ask me, like have a list of people, like what do you think about these people, and I'll like let them know, like I haven't worked with this person, that person I have worked with, they suck, don't hire them, or like these people are really cool, please hire them. That's
really cool.
Yeah, and so it's fantastic. We get to see all these people in the wild, in the lush green Alaskan wilderness, and it's super fun seeing them in like what we call the real world, because like Antarctica is just made up. It's just fake. But
Alaska's not really the real world either.
Yeah, I know, right?
Considering.
There's a little
still pretty remote, still pretty different, and like the tourist industry is a unique industry.
It's its own weird beast. But it's it is nice getting the chance to like hike with people at minimum. But
you don't have to wear giant boots every time you go.
Seeing people in shorts is always so weird. Look at your legs.
See, the things you don't even consider when you live just like any other lifestyle.
Really. Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest pros and cons to doing seasonal work, either Antarctica specific or just seasonal work in general? What do you think are the biggest? Let's start with the pros.
The pros, there are a lot of pros. You get working seasonally opens up so much opportunity to explore the world, and like not only go and like visit a spot, but you're going to spend like ideally multiple months somewhere. And so you get to really get to know somewhere. Like I call Alaska one of my homes just because I get to be there for multiple months out of the year. So and that can take you to a lot of different areas. And then also just meeting people. You just meet a lot of like-minded people. And I've met some of my best friends in the entire world from seasonal work, and a lot of good weddings come out of it. Surprisingly, you meet all these people around the world, and they're like, "Hey, I'm in Michigan. You want to go to this wedding just because you seem cool?" Things like that will happen. Let's see. And then like the good batch of money is always really nice. It should not be about the money. It should be about the adventure. but the money is nice. You don't make too much, typically.
But then you don't spend very much either.
But you don't spend that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get to save, which is great, and it feels good. Cons, you don't make much in a lot of those jobs.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough that like I've worked my way up to areas where like I'm in a supervisor position in a lot of different places where I work.
And that's also because you've been doing it for 8 years.
It took 8 years to get there. But luckily, like nowadays, like I make a sustainable income. And even then, like if I did my taxes this year, and some of you would be like, "That's all you made," but that's like no housing and pretty much no like bills. No bills or anything like that. So that's like my takeaway, which is nice. And then, so yeah, you're not making too much money. And then this con is something that like it takes a while for people to like understand, but like being part of a community that disbands that often sucks so much. Like the first time you do it, you know, like it's sad, it's heart-wrenching, but then you get over it pretty quickly. You still talk to these people. With the advent of social media and just different communication outlets, you can FaceTime with people or what have you and stay in touch pretty well. But like it's kind of hard on your soul after a while of like saying goodbye to your close friends every few months, you know, and meeting all these like great people. After a while, it kind of makes you like a little stale, you know. You meet these people and you're just like, I didn't feel a spark, you know. So I don't know if we're gonna be friends. And
you like, meet enough people that you get really picky about who you want to.
Yeah, you're like, I've got enough friends. Thank you.
I'm good. They're not all here, but I have a lot of them.
Yeah, which is such a shitty way to like approach any situation. But it's kind of like the way that you have to be, because you can't just like fall in love with everyone that you meet again and again and again.
You have to like protect yourself from
a little bit. Yeah,
it hurts.
Yeah, it hurts a lot. And then also just like uprooting your life. Like you get settled into this place and you have to like what I've learned is that like when I move somewhere, when I go to Antarctica or when I go to Greenland, I move the fuck in. And so I like day one, I'm decorating and I am like making it as cozy as I can so I can enjoy it for as long as possible. And because I'm going to have to take it all down and then put it in a bag and then take that back to wherever I'm going next. And so that can be very difficult. And and just not having things, you know, like it's so weird to say that having things is nice, but I've lived for 8 years without having anything, and then I bought a dresser and I was like, oh, this is so nice. I love this dresser. I can put my things in it and it could just stay there, you know, like it doesn't need to go anywhere at any point. And it's so nice. I actually just bought a desk that I'm keeping in my brother's house. Ooh, it's very fancy.
You got 2 pieces of furniture and a car.
I know, right? It's I got roots, baby.
Working on it. Speaking of, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your future plans? Like, what do those roots actually look like for you after 8 or 9 years of bopping around the world?
So originally, my plan was to finish up with Antarctica this year, not go back, and then go up to Greenland, make my money there, and I also had like a short gig in Alaska just helping out with like preseason training, and so I was going to help out there, and like I had done the math and like all of these things together, I was going to have like enough in savings where I could just gain a skill real quick. And so my idea was to go to massage school just so I could have something that would make me more money than what I currently have, and that I could travel with still if that's something that I wanted to do. And there's a great school in Flagstaff, Arizona. I popped in there real quick and just like really fell in love with all the nature in the area, and it's 3 hours away from family, so that's going to be discouragement of them just popping by randomly without letting me know.
But you're still close enough that you're not an entire globe away from them.
I have not been to Christmas in 8 years, and my family is it's going to take a while for them to forgive me for that one. But just being home for the holidays would be really, really nice. But I would be close enough to where like if anything happened, I could just drive over and take care of whatever is going on and plan a trip there every now and again. But that kind of got uprooted recently, and so I am doing one more year in Antarctica. We'll see. 1 more year is something that I've been saying for a long time.
Yeah, I've heard it for a few years in a row now.
Yeah, and so we'll see how that all shakes out. I'm hoping that next year will be what this year was supposed to be. Hopefully this virus goes away and that like my employment will pick back up and I'll be able to make the savings that I intend to, and then
pick up a skill.
Yeah, just pick up a skill. You should all pick up a skill right now while you're social distancing. I actually am going through like an extensive Excel course right now, which I forgot to bring my computer with me, so I'm not doing it this weekend, I guess. But and then I have a coding course. Yeah, I know, right? But then I have a coding course lined up after that, which is also another big haul. Well, we'll see. That might.
I was going to suggest that for you. I think that's great that you're already doing it.
Yeah, I already paid for it. Yeah. So yeah, that's on the back burner right now.
Yep. So pick up extra skills, y'all.
Don't be lazy.
Don't be lazy.
Get outside, pick up a skill.
What would you say to somebody who is living whatever life they're living, and they're maybe not loving it, and hearing about seasonal work, whether that's going down to McMurdo or being a campground host or whatever? What would you say to somebody who's like on the precipice but is still not quite sure that they want to do that?
Gosh, I would say just do it. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved in making a decision like this, and you have to weigh everything, but it's a short time, all things considered. Yep. You can figure something else out. If you go there and you don't like it, then you can use the time that you're there to figure something else out.
It's not a commitment.
It's not that big of a commitment. 5.5 months sounds like a long time. It goes by like nothing. And so if you are an accountant and you don't like being an accountant and you want to go to Antarctica real quick, make it happen. Just do it. And then think about what you're going to do afterwards. And if you don't figure something else out, go back to Antarctica and then really figure your shit out.
Otherwise you'll get stuck in this endless loop of one more year. One more year.
Yep.
One more year.
It's a son of a bitch. So yeah, I would definitely recommend just like getting out there and making it happen. But also do your research. Being a campground host sounds great, but if you don't know what you're getting into, don't do it. Like talk to somebody who's done it before. Talk to somebody who's currently doing it and really understand what they want from you. The exact parameters of what your job entails and the like flexibility therein lies. So like make sure that you talk to somebody before you make a decision.
Educate yourself. And in more ways than just the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to a human being who has done the thing that you're curious about doing, and also do it.
Yeah, just get out there and do it.
Don't just like gather research and like tease yourself into thinking that you're being productive or like making moves. Like that doesn't count.
Yeah, something that I see that happens a lot is that, so there's this thing where like people plan to do something and then they tell everybody they know about this thing that they're planning. And when they do that, they're getting like little bits of serotonin release because they're, like it gives you like a little sense of accomplishment. And so like, just make sure that you don't get caught in that, because I've seen it happen so many times of people being like, I'm going to apply for Antarctica, like, let me use you as a reference or whatever, and I'm going to make it happen. And then they tell everybody that they know, and then they don't do it because they have like that sense of satisfaction. So like,
you trick your brain into thinking that you already did it. By talking about the fact that you're going to do it. Yeah. But then you don't actually do it.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
And so and I'm not saying like, don't tell anyone that you're going to do this thing. Just like, make sure that you are conscious of it. Of like, when you're telling somebody about this, make sure that you're making a conscious effort to make that goal happen. Don't just go bragging about it. Just like, ooh, yay, I'm doing this thing. And then not do it. Yeah. Don't be lame.
Don't be lame. Don't be lame. Do the thing you say you're going to do.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people can benefit from at least one season of seasonal lifestyle. We get a surprising amount of lawyers that come through.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's super surprising, and they don't talk about it too much. Like a lot of them don't go back to being an attorney. A lot of them will just be like, all right, I'm just gonna go like do seasonal lifestyle for as long as I need to. I know one person in particular who's doing that currently, and she is very happy. when her first season down in Antarctica, she was pretty neurotic, and she is just a delight these days.
That's awesome. So if you're a neurotic person and you want to be a delight, try some seasonal work.
Just loosen it up a little, you know? Your life is stressful already. Do something fun.
Yeah, I agree. Tom, if people wanted to reach out to you or follow you, find out more about your adventures, where might they find you online?
Ooh, gosh. I'm not too great at social media. I am on Instagram, and I can't remember what my handle is. But
I think it's Fancy Pence, but I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes, or I guess Holly will. I won't.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And I mean, if you're really like looking to talk to somebody personally, like we can put my email in there as well, and you can send me an email, and I'll give you some honest feedback, and of course, I'm gonna lean more towards emailing. But if it's something that you're really, really excited about, shoot me an email, and we can plan on talking on the phone and go through it that way.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm more than happy to help guide somebody through their seasonal journey.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.